Welcome to Speaking of Service, the podcast that uncovers practical ways to grow service revenue, control costs, and improve customer satisfaction. If you're looking to innovate, gain a competitive edge, or just learn about the latest service trends, you've come to the right place. Tune in to today's discussion, where Chris Wolf speaks with leading expert Kate Leggett from Forrester on what to expect in 2024 for service innovation and market direction.
20 years ago, technology really transformed the front line of service. And when I'm talking about service, I'm talking about customer service, usually delivered in a contact center, enabled with all kinds of transformative technologies. Well, now that same spirit of transformation is coming to the new front line of service, which is field service. Makers of industrial equipment have all the same objectives that those early contact center operators had, which was to improve service delivery, reduce costs involved with service delivery, speed up service, and enhance the overall customer experience. I'm delighted to have Kate Leggett here as my guest today. Kate cut her teeth looking at the way frontline customer service was delivered almost 20 years ago in the contact center, where software technologies and automation completely transformed the agent experience as well as the customer experience. Kate's taking that same mindset now and looking at the frontline worker providing field service for industrial equipment. Welcome to Speaking of Service, Kate. Tell me a little bit about yourself and the work you've been doing.
Happy to do so, Wolfie, and delighted to be here. Thank you. Like you said, I started my career working for customer service software vendors. Oh, goodness, 20 years ago, building these digital customer service technologies that would support, for example, telecommunications companies and being able to service their customers. And I spent a lot of time sitting next to agents, being able to understand the calls that they were getting from their customers and the technologies that they needed to be successful. And being successful sometimes meant a truck roll. And so a decade ago, I came to Forrester and I head up the CRM practice at Forrester. And field service is part of my coverage area. Field service is, again, one of these technologies that hasn't had a natural home in enterprises. Some folks see field service as part of ERP, or some see it as a separate technology disconnected from others. Some companies see field service as part of CRM. The way that I look at this space is it's an ecosystem, and you want to be able to support your customers' end goals. And to be able to do that, you need to be able to support your customer along their end-to-end journey, from marketing to sales to the contact center, because that is where your calls, your inquiries will come in. Or it could come in from an event, from a connected device. Then what do you do with that inquiry, that call, perhaps that alert from your connected device? Are you able to solve it remotely, or do you actually have to dispatch a technician to your site to be able to physically address that issue? And so field technologies are the most intimate way of being able to represent your brand to your customers. And so I look at field services, again, that continuation of the CRM journey.
It's funny, my first job out of school was wearing a headset for Shawmut Bank, and we would take inquiries in, just first call in the queue would end up in your headset. But then there was this advent of being able to do skills-based routing. So a particular type of call would go to an expert. The ability to drive a screen pop so that the information that agent needed to answer the question was provided to them just in time. And that required a tremendous amount of integration with the marketing systems, expert systems, IT and infrastructure systems. I've got to imagine you're seeing so many of the same parallels with the frontline worker.
Yeah, it's Groundhog Day all over again. Yes, it's done. in a different way, but the concept is still the same. That field tech who shows up on a job site, you want to be able to pop, customer details, asset details, work order history details. You want to pop up guided flows for the field tech to be able to follow, related incidents, the right knowledge, to make them successful, to be able to fix the issue upon first contact. So it's like Back to the Future, same concept. We're just doing it really differently today.
And similarly, those contact center agents used to be a low-cost workforce meant to just field calls and complete them. But then we realized that they could be a profit center. They could be driving incremental revenues through upsell and cross-sell functions. Are you seeing that same trend with field workers?
Absolutely, because again, your field worker is the most intimate representation of your brand. And they're a valuable resource who is on site understanding how your connected machinery or assets are being used to meet your customers' goals. And they can look at your ecosystem and be able to recommend perhaps different ways of using an asset or additional products. And so one of the big trends that we're seeing is that field service organizations are really becoming revenue generators because, first of all, they are in a trusted relationship with the customer. They really understand a customer's goals. They understand how these assets or machinery are being used and are, again, trusted to make the right recommendations and, again, drive revenue, but more importantly, deepen your customer relationship and that customer intimacy that keeps your customers satisfied and loyal to your brand.
Well, there was a time when industrial equipment was all about the physical parts and machines, but now software is eating the world. And increasingly, those frontline workers are needing to fix software-related problems rather than hardware-related problems. How are they working in conjunction with maybe technologists backstage to enable faster fix rates or greater efficiency?
Your field tech may not necessarily know the right thing to do, or may not have the right skills. And they have to be able to quickly, when they're on the job site, reach into the back office and find that subject matter expert who can recommend, who can guide them through the right fix process. That takes collaboration. That takes skilling. And that as well takes new technologies like AR and VR to be able to help that technician that's right in front of the asset be able to understand what they're looking at, and for the back office worker to be able to guide them through a resolution process. It also means that it's a collaborative effort. You're swarming around an issue where you're sending data streams back to the back office, where perhaps there is some out-of-band analysis that needs to happen, or you're sending incidents back to perhaps it's your engineering department that may need to recommend a fix and then ultimately push it to that asset without even the tech being involved.
Kate, I know you've spent a lot of time trying to understand both the CEO agenda and the CIO agenda as it comes to trends and enabling efficiencies in the front line of service and the contact center, and now with field service. Take us through some of the trends that you see most compelling.
Yeah, that's a great question, Wilfie. You just look around. Macroeconomics right now aren't really looking great.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are projecting a growth slowdown going into next year. And at Forrester, we recently polled CEOs across all industries about where for next year. And in all geographies, what we found was what topped the list was a focus on efficiencies, to be able to improve productivity, effectiveness. And in third place was about improving profitability. it wasn't about growth at all costs. It was about responsible revenue growth. We polled CIOs about their business priorities, and their priorities skew even more towards improving efficiencies and productivity, because in their world, it's all about cost optimization. And perhaps that also means reducing tech debt and modernizing applications. So we also ran the same survey and looked at results by industry. So for industrial manufacturing, high-tech manufacturing, even software, the priorities were the same. And then in another survey, we looked at, what are the software investments that companies are making next year? And what we found was that customer service and field service applications topped the list, because these two technologies working side by side together really not help companies optimize costs, but they also do a great job at being able to deliver those experiences that keep your customers satisfied and loyal, that ultimately drives customer retention and enrichment that impact top line revenue. But these two technologies also help companies unlock new revenue opportunities. For example, allowing companies to offer their assets as services, for example, instead of products, which deepens the relationship that you have with your customers over time, lets these vendors get more embedded with their products into their customer ecosystem. Again, being able to deliver value in an ongoing way to help support your end customers' business needs.
So what you're saying really echoes a lot of what I've heard from other guests, like the Services Council, where their members are seeing that every dollar of new bookings revenue of a piece of equipment, for example, is setting that manufacturer up for $8 of recurring services revenue post-sale. Now, I think of the contact center and the frontline field service worker in the past being almost a necessary evil, a back office function. But now they're moving to the front office as a sales and marketing organization with real brand implications. That's got to be incredibly challenging, you said, given the technical debt and the fragmentation of infrastructure that many of your customers are facing.
Yeah, it really is. And this move to servitization, it's great, because what it does, it allows companies to extend the relationship that they're having with their customers beyond that first sale, and beyond just a tactical firefighting service interaction. And with servitization, you're looking for opportunities to deepen your customer relationship, to understand what are your customers actually doing with your products, with your assets. And it allows the vendor to be able to recommend perhaps different usage patterns, or perhaps additional products, a cross-sell, or a whole other add-on, to be able to enhance and support your customer's end goal. But to do that, like you said, Wolfie, it's really hard, because a lot of the times field service is completely disconnected from other technologies that an enterprise would have. It's disconnected from sales and marketing tech. It's disconnected from customer service. It could be disconnected from ERP. And so what you want is to be able to empower that field tech that's the most intimate representation of your brand, that's on your customer site, to be empowered with all the data, all the insights that they need to be able to deliver those great experiences. Like, what is the customer history, the account history? What is the details of the work order? What is the history of the asset? And does the field tech have the knowledge, have the insights to be able to address, to fix that issue in one visit? Do they have the guided flow? Do they have the knowledge? And if they don't, how can they reach back into the back office and find the right subject matter experts to help them out? Can they use new technologies like AR and VR to be able to help them through really complicated um, processes and workflows to be able to fix that issue on one visit? So empowering your field force to be able to deliver these great experiences, to be able to solve the issue, to be able to show up with the right parts on your truck takes a lot of data, a lot of insights, and this connected ecosystem of enterprise technologies that puts the customer and your account at the center of all interactions and conversations.
Well, here at PTC, we talk about the digital thread that allows information from engineering to flow down into the factory for manufacturing of a complex machine and then be used by service out in the field. But we've encountered many of our clients facing fragmentation because they've grown up buying best-of-breed applications in particular areas, and they're anchored into that technical debt very deeply. When you talk to, let's say, a strategic population of clients who are looking to transform and enable that digital thread, what does the distribution of that curve look like? What's the hump in the middle? Are they laggards? Are they right on time? Are they early adopters? Where's the state of the industry right now?
Oh boy. I would think they're really laggards because, like you said, you want that end-to-end visibility from developing, planning, manufacturing, distributing your product, and then understanding how your products are working out in the field. What are their usage patterns? When do they start trending unhealthy? And then being able to service them to be able to meet your customers' KPIs. And like you said, it takes this connected ecosystem of products. And what I found is over time, companies buy best in breed technologies that are focused to support the business metrics, the KPIs of the organization who is purchasing that technology. So engineering could be buying product lifecycle management solutions. Your field force could be buying a fragmented field service solution. They may go to a best-in-breed knowledge management vendor. They may slap on an AR, VR solution. They may purchase a contact center solution that's disconnected from their sales and marketing CRM. And so what you're left with is internally silos of data and process and workflows where employees don't have full visibility of the customer, their history, assets. And from a customer's point of view, it's a really fractured, fragmented experience, which frustrates your customer, which gets them angry because they think that they've been communicating all this information to the company that they're working with. And they think the company should know who they are and understand their business problem, understand how they're using their products, and support them to meet their business goals. I mean, your customer has told your company this over and over again, and most enterprises can't deliver that quality of service that your end customer expects.
So this is kind of a good news, bad news situation, right? If I am surrounded by laggards and I am going to get my digital house in order, there's a real opportunity for mover advantage here to be more competitive than the average bear.
Absolutely, because it doesn't take a lot to delight the customer these days. And more than that, the customer already knows what good is, what great is. I mean, just look around you in your life as a consumer. I mean, you're surrounded by Amazon. You're surrounded by Uber, who takes all friction out of getting to your destination. Amazon, I joke, knows me better than my husband. because it's able to recommend products that I really want to buy because it knows my entire history. Netflix, same thing. It knows what I'm watching and it keeps me engaged with the right content because it knows everything that I've watched and how I've rated different shows. Those are the experiences that your customers demand in their lives as consumers and in their business lives. They want those personal experiences where the company has a full understanding of who they are and what they've done, and they can recommend content, products, experiences to satisfy their business goals. Customers also expect easy and effective experiences, self-service digital experiences. How many companies are able to do that well? So like you said, there's a great advantage for companies that really truly digitize at the foundational layers instead of digitizing in pockets and still don't look at that overall end-to-end customer experience through the lens of the customer.
When you're advising the C-suite on how to get their digital house in order, you've talked about agreeing on the right architecture, the right metrics, and perhaps you've even talked to them or advised them on the experts that could help them architect and lay in the foundation properly. How does somebody get started in assessing where they are and setting the pragmatic year 1, year 2, year 3 objectives?
Yeah, it's not only about technology.
Right.
It's about strategy. It's about operations. It's about people. And so what I always say is, let's walk away from what you have today. What are your business objectives? What are the high-level KPIs that you want to achieve? And then is it cost optimization? Is it unlocking new revenue opportunities to be able to get to that profitable revenue growth? Is it increasing at a foundational level your efficiencies? Now, is every organization aligned and working towards those goals, or are they at cross purposes? And then once you have your high-level strategy in place, what does that actually mean in terms of workflows, in terms of use cases that you want to be able to roll out and be able to support? And once you have that in place, you need to figure out, how are you doing today? So it's that assessing your operations. How is your strategy aligned? How is your organizational departmental strategy aligned to your overarching company strategy? How are your processes all interconnected? So you can really actualize that digital thread to be able to get better efficiencies or better products or deliver better experiences. Is your data in order? Are you able to have clean data where you're able to trace, for example, the history and the health of an asset and act on that data? Once you have that data and you have your workflows in place, you can then at that point start thinking about automation. You can then start about thinking about AI. But again, the way I counsel our clients is you start with that high-level strategy. You break it down into the workflows that you want to be able to support that are aligned to your high-level KPIs. Then you assess your operations, and then you pragmatically put a roadmap of modernization in place, which involves technology, which could involve processes, and your people. It could be upskilling your people. It could be moving people around in different within an organization. It's making sure that you have enough resources in the right geographies where, for example, your assets are to be able to deliver upon your strategy.
So Kate, I know you've been following our colleagues at ServiceMax for some 10 years now. You must have a point of view on how PTC and ServiceMax together may be able to help customers move past that, that incredibly daunting task of transformation and get really tactical, moving at least a couple steps forward.
Yeah, I was so happy with the acquisition. I've been following ServiceMax for a really long time. And I think PTC is a perfect home for ServiceMax because I think that, first of all, field service is not just a singular technology. If you think that way, you end up with these islands of best-in-breed technologies that are all disconnected from one another. And it's not doing anyone a favor. It's not doing your employees a favor. It's not doing your end customers a favor. So you really have to look at broader suites. And so field service as part of service lifecycle management is just, it's a necessary step. But what PTC offers is that full continuation from product lifecycle management with the complement of service lifecycle management, where product lifecycle management, again, those are the technologies that where you develop, you plan, you manufacture, you distribute your products. And service lifecycle management, I think of it as that physical component, that people component, where you're managing your assets, you're managing your products, your machines, you're managing their service, their parts, you're managing that customer communication, you're managing the end-to-end operations and maintenance of the products, of the assets, of the machines that you've created. And it's creating this virtual loop where you're understanding how your assets are failing. And then you're feeding that back into engineering to improve asset quality, to perhaps understand how your customers are using your assets. Perhaps that's giving you new insights in designing your products differently. Or you're understanding how your customers are using your products, and perhaps you want to bundle products together and unlock perhaps new revenue opportunities. Or you're able to optimize your cost structures by being really disciplined at demand management, for example, or parts management, or warranty management. So again, ServiceMax being acquired by PTC is just this virtuous combination that yields so much more value than ServiceMax just alone.
Well, we've certainly found that they've brought value to our clients. It's not just about understanding where failures may be in a machine, but our early adopters are seeing the ability to take serviceability in mind and bring that back up to the design of a piece of equipment. We had some guests from IDC here talking about making sure if you know what's likely to fail the most, you want to put access to that part on the front side of the machine and not the back, so it makes it easier for a field tech to do their job. And I'm with you. We call that the infinity loop, where you have the digital world informing the physical world and then back again. But let's put data to the side for a second, and let's talk about human beings. I mean, what you're really describing here is a cultural change for an organization and the way it interacts with its users. How are frontline workers responding to these recommendations to use advanced infrastructure technology, AI as well? And do you see any parallels in the way contact center agents initially reacted to technologies and how they expect technologies to serve their jobs today?
Yeah, that is a fundamental question because, we're all humans and we approach any new technology initiative with fear. Will the robots come and take our jobs? How, and it's, employees tend not to have that open mindset to be able to understand how technologies can actually make their lives better. I mean, we've got a skilling issue now. We got a labor shortage now. And your field techs who are on the front lines, they have a really tough job. They don't know if they have the right knowledge, the right insights, the right information to be able to do their jobs. They don't know if they've got the parts on their truck to be able to fix the asset the first time they're on a job site. And so what it takes is to take that fear of a new technology and communicate to your techs or to your broader organization that these technologies don't eat jobs. What they do is they take off all the rote administrative work, first of all, that a tech has to do. And they empower the tech with all the right information and knowledge that they need to be a superhero, to be the best tech that they can possibly be, where they may not have the right skills, but then they're put through a workflow to be able to help perhaps diagnose an issue. And they're handheld and supported, and they learn to trust the technology, and it makes them do their job better. So I always think of it as, like Tony Stark in Iron Man, and you've got Jarvis. And it's not that Jarvis, the AI, is taking Tony Stark's job away. Jarvis is just making Tony be the best superhero he can absolutely be. And I think about all these new technologies, whether it's AI, predictive AI, or automation, or even digitization. You're making these techs into superheroes, being able to be equipped with everything that they need to be successful. It's not that the AI is going to take their jobs away, but that takes a lot of skill, a lot of change management, a lot of communication to get your frontline employees bought into this whole concept.
So here at Speaking of Service, I've had the luxury of talking to two really innovative companies on different ends of the spectrum. Stanomatic makes industrial cleaning equipment they deliver as a service. Karl Storz is innovating with optical tools and imaging used inside of operating rooms. And they talk about the machine whisperers who are on the front lines, able to use their intuition and experience to diagnose and make repairs that might not be intuitively obvious to the layperson. And we've created technologies that enable them to capture that expertise and play that forward to the next generation of service techs. I think with the addition of ServiceMax to the portfolio, we can assure that we support those techs with making sure the right parts are on the truck, that the things that they need are proximate to where they are, to your point, to make them the superhero like Jarvis does with Tony Stark.
Even figuring out who's the right tech for the job. How do they get there? What's the optimal route? Again, suggesting next best actions, and then doing all the work that they don't want to do, summarizing a work order or capturing knowledge. But I like that. I like that framing.
So I come to our conversation as a member of our sales organization focused on our partners. At PTC, we really believe that we make amazing software technology, but it requires expert practitioners to deploy the software to help our customers use it safely and effectively, to use it in new ways until it hurts and then it doesn't hurt any longer. I often equate this to having surgery, occupational therapy, PT, and then you've got a new lease on life. What types of ecosystems of services organizations are you seeing users of our technology embrace to help their projects go successfully?
Yeah, that's a great question, because at the end of the day, you want your end customer to be successful in meeting their business objectives. And that doesn't just take software. That takes a whole ecosystem that's working together, collaborating, co creating with the customer to be able to support the customer's business. Because ultimately, that is the only way that the software vendor, that the consulting partner, that the ecosystem of independent software vendors and perhaps marketplace applications uh, will be successful. So it's all of these ecosystems working together. So your partners have to be aligned with you, the software provider, and you have to be working together with the customer to collaborate, to co-create, to give feedback, to evolve your products and services to be able to not only meet market demand and understand where the market is going and innovate, but to make your end customer successful. And then you can add on ISVs. You can add on perhaps third party marketplace components that have these like little point solutions that may offer a feature that's not part of your product, but has to plug in and has to share data and has to conform to your architectural standards. So it's all of you, all working together with the customer, again, at the center of your strategy to make them successful, because they're the ones that count. It's only if they're successful that they're going to keep the relationship with you and with your consultancies.
So, Kate, we've had a great conversation. We opened the conversation talking about your research with the C-suite and the priority for efficiency and effectiveness, followed by responsible, profitable growth. That most of the organizations that you advise are mired in some degree of technical debt, but have aspirations to be able to enable the digital thread so that what happens in the front of the house follows out to the frontline worker, and then information from those service experiences flows back into engineering and design. You've talked about trying to get your digital house in order and get your team to agree on what the right metrics are, what the right objectives are for a major project. Let me leave you with the last words. What advice would you have for companies setting out on this journey today?
It's really hard to do, and you won't be successful without commitment, true commitment in terms of resources, time, and money from your C-suite. Because these are not grassroots initiatives that each organization can fund and fuel and sustain from the bottoms up. You really need that cross-company alignment from sales, marketing, engineering, your product organizations, your support organizations, your field organizations, your back office organizations. And so these initiatives really have to be driven from the top. And all parts of your company have to be moving together to be able to affect real change within your company. And yes, you can modernize in pockets, and that will support part of your journey. But to get that true transformation, where you're able to perhaps move from reactive engagement to predictive engagement, where you're able to really fundamentally change and support your business objectives, takes a full alignment of the company. So I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but it's a hard job. So what I would say is start socializing the value of transformation at all levels of the organization with data, with pragmatic business cases, exact case studies, ROIs, to be able to get buy-in, again, at all levels of your organization.
Well, you've set me up nicely. We've had the luxury here at Speaking of Service of talking to quite a few organizations who've taken that elephant and eaten it one bite at a time. Kate, can't thank you enough for being with us today, and congratulations with all the good work you're doing at Forrester.
Oh, thank you, and pleasure is all mine. Happy to be part of this conversation.
Thanks for listening to the Speaking of Service podcast, brought to you by PTC. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave a rating or review. And be sure to check out other episodes to hear new perspectives on improving life for aftermarket professionals, service teams, and the customers they support. If you have a topic of interest or want to provide feedback, email us at speakingofservice@ptc.com or visit us at ptc.com/speakingofservice.